At the beginning of the 2020 to 2021 season, there wasn't any team other than the Lakers which could boast of having two top 10 players in their roster. But after Brooklyn landed James Harden, they can now say the same for themselves. But the difference is, the Nets have a certified third star in Kyrie Irving as well, who would potentially be the most overqualified third option in the NBA today. While of course, it would be ridiculous to compare the Nets to the defending champions at this point. But by pulling off this trade, the Nets just showed everyone that they are fully committed in utilizing Kevin Durant's prime years. And if you're one who understands that star power actually wins championships in the NBA, then you totally see why this newly formed Brooklyn Big Three is going to terrify the league as long as they're together in one team. And in case you forgot, the last two NBA championships have been won by teams who chose to trade for two disgruntled superstars, namely Kawhi Leonard and Anthony Davis. And it's no coincidence as well that the Lakers, Clippers, and the Bucks have the highest odds to win the championship this season after they gave up tons of their future picks in exchange for immediate star power. Well, just like them, Brooklyn has mortgaged their future to the Houston Rockets, but unlike those other teams, the Nets have created an almost unimaginable collective of highly offensive potent players who are all in their primes. Yet, it's still premature to crown this team as a successful one because only a championship will validate them trading for James Harden, nothing more, nothing less. But can the Brooklyn Nets realistically win a chip with this team as presently constructed? What's good guys, it's Rira Balls here, and today, we'll try to dig deep as to how James Harden fits with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant in the Nets Big Three, and we'll look at how clear their path is towards a potential NBA championship. But before we move on, it would be great if you guys could smash that like button right now because it helps the channel grow for me to be able to create more content moving forward. So let's get to it. Before anything else, let's talk about Brooklyn's defense. We know that they'll be great offensively, but they should go much further if they find the right mix in the defensive end. While after a hot start to the season defensively, the Nets have been disappointing so far as they have been allowing 113 points per 100 possessions during their past 8 games, and that makes them the 6th worst defensive team in the league. While James Harden is actually a very underrated defender, I think, but still, his arrival won't make things better on that end for them. And the loss of a savvy rim protector like Jarrett Allen will only worsen their defensive woes, and so they will most likely have to rely on guys like Bruce Brown or Jeff Green for defensive stability. And for real, no matter how much star power this team has, they can't win the championship with a shortage of good defenders. But the good thing though is that they have some tools to help them improve. They still have a 5 million taxpayer mid-level exception plus another 5 million disabled player exception which they'll get because of Spencer Dinwiddie's injury. And those things could be crucial to how this team creates a better supporting cast that will help their big three throughout the course of the season. Well, I think they should look for at least a good backup big man. Right now, DeAndre Jordan is their center by default, but based on most metrics, he should be in a backup role at this point in his career. His PER of 12 and minus 1.6 Bucks plus minus rating won't cut it if the Nets want to survive in the playoffs. Because of this, KD will most likely play center tons of times, and also by default, he needs to guard the opposing team's best wing player. Well, it's not that he can guard guys like Giannis, Jimmy Butler, or Kawhi, but if you were Steve Nash, would you really want to waste Durant's energy and defense when he's just so much more valuable on the offensive end? Well, I think the Nets should have at least tried to get PJ Tucker in the Harden deal. Tucker would have given them so much needed defensive help and additional depth as well. But it is what it is, and we'll just have to wait and see how they're going to fill their 3 remaining roster spots as the season progresses. But ultimately, no matter how bad they might be defensively, they would still be really good at think, and that's because they will still most likely beat teams using their unlimited supply of shooting and offensive firepower. As it is right now, KD ranks 2nd, Harden ranks 3rd, and Kyrie ranks 9th in points per game average among all active players. And also, Durant and Harden own 7 of the last 11 scoring titles in the NBA. That's just the kind of offensive talent that the Nets have at their disposal right now. And throughout their NBA careers, their big three have proven that they are some of the best players in terms of combining efficiency and volume. Currently, KD ranks 3rd, Harden ranks 4th, and Irving ranks 11th in the NBA in terms of career true shooting percentage in relation to usage rate. But of course, as is the case in a team with 3 high volume scorers, it's going to be easy to call this team out with the same "there's only one ball" narrative. But objectively, Harden is the only real ball dominant player in the Nets Big Three. He has had the the highest usage rate in any NBA season in history, and I think it's only natural for him to hold the ball with his style of play. And even if that would be the case in Brooklyn, I think they should still thrive offensively. Because if you look at it, Kevin Durant has shot 44% in catch-and-shoot 3-pointers during his last 4 seasons, and that puts him as the 5th best catch-and-shoot 3-point guy in the NBA during that span. Kyrie, on the other hand, also ranks 7th in that same category. And if that's not enough, James Harden has also been consistently shooting above 40% as a spot-up shooter during his Houston days as well. And so, I think it's not totally impossible for this team to click offensively, if only all their stars choose to buy in. While KD isn't really a ball-dominant player as opposed to what a lot of people think. In fact, the highest rating he had in terms of touch time was 46th in the entire NBA, and that was in 2018 to 2019. In short, he can just move around, pick his spots, and still score easily. And also, during the last 4 seasons, Kyrie has only ran an average of 3 to 4 isolation plays per game, and that number would hardly anger anyone. So just imagine James Harden holding the ball on top of the key while KD, Kyrie, and Joe Harris runs around the perimeter on the receiving end of Harden's passes. And looking at how the Nets have distributed their shots so far, even before the Harden trade went down, you'd understand the situation much better. So far this season, the Nets are averaging 88 field goal attempts per game, and Kyrie and KD account for 38 of those attempts on average. Last season in Houston, Harden attempted 22 shots per game while playing with another ball-needy guard in Russell Westbrook. And if you add his field goal attempts to what Kyrie and KD are putting up so far, hypothetically, the Nets' big three should only combine for 60 shot attempts per game, and that should still leave the rest of the roster 28 more shots to divide amongst themselves. So, shot distribution shouldn't be a problem for this team as well if you look at it in the most basic sense. If anything, this team should be primed to have one of the greatest offensive seasons in recent memory. While last season, the Dallas Mavericks had the most efficient offensive season in NBA history, averaging almost 116 points per 100 possessions. But even before the James Harden trade, the Nets were already putting up 113.4 points per 100 possessions, which is literally 2.5 points away from equaling the Mavs' offensive rate. But at the end of the day, we can talk about the numbers all we want, but the truth is, all 3 superstars should totally buy in for this to work. Well, the Golden State Warriors in their prime were unstoppable with 3 scorers in KD, Steph, and Klay because all 3 were able to function well off the ball. Historically, Harden was never asked to play off the ball because that was how the Rockets system was set up. They basically ran everything through him. However, Kyrie was able to do that before, and he won a championship because he learned how to be on the receiving end of an elite playmaking wing in LeBron James. The only question is, does he even want to do the same right now in Brooklyn? Well, I think there should be at least one of Brooklyn's 3 superstars who must be comfortable taking a somewhat lesser role, and I think that should be Kyrie, no question. Durant and Harden combined for 12 All-NBA first-team honors. Both guys are also NBA MVPs, and those 2 would hold a significant advantage over any defender thrown into them because of their size, skill, and proven ability to take over. Well, Kyrie is an NBA champion and still one of the best offensive guards in the game, but as part of a scoring-heavy big 3, he's definitely in the bottom of the pecking order. He's definitely the wild card here, and a huge part of how this team succeeds depends on him, to be honest. I think in an ideal world, it would be easy to designate Harden as the facilitator, KD as the scorer, and Kyrie as the closer, but it's not as simple as that in reality. The thing is, calling out Kyrie to retire would be a ridiculous thing to do right now, but he definitely needs to do his part. Klay Thompson was a great number 3 for Golden State because he fit well as an off-ball player. Chris Bosh won in Miami because he knew his role alongside LeBron and D-Wade as well. Even without Kyrie, a Harden and Durant tandem will still be a nightmare for the entire NBA, but still, I'm pretty sure that any team would choose having a big 3 this good over anything. And if you're Steve Nash, finding a way to play your 3 superstars together is actually a really good problem to have. Well, at the end of the day, the Nets have formed something special, and it's good that they are finally going all in again. And thankfully for Nets fans, this isn't 2013. This isn't a desperate situation wherein your team has just traded for a 37-year-old Kevin Garnett and a 36-year-old Paul Pierce. James Harden is only 31 and is one of the most durable players in the league. Plus, this time, the stakes are higher, but the chances of them winning an NBA championship is bigger as it has ever been. Even before acquiring James Harden, the Nets already boast being the 6th best offensive team in the league, but you could already almost expect them to be on top in a few weeks or so. Ultimately, the best case scenario is that Brooklyn's Big 3 figures out the right way to play together and they win multiple championships, which isn't hard to imagine. But at worst, all 3 of them could be gone by 2022, leading Brooklyn to some of the darkest days that the franchise has ever seen. The choice is all up to them now. Thank you for sticking until the end of the video, and please feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button if you've enjoyed this video. Again, this is Rero Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace!